Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be talking about Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway, and specifically the experience as it was presented in the initial E3 trailers. If you have been following at the time, you might remember that the gameplay was quite different from what we eventually played. A lot more open and not nearly as linear as the full game ended up becoming. I believe the reason for that is they couldn't deliver those ideas in that graphical fidelity with the limitations of consoles and PC hardware at the time. So eventually, we got that linear, tactical action experience. We're talking about presentations from 2006 and today, in 2026, we still don't quite have such an experience, especially in this setting. So, this video is about the gameplay ideas, how they were presented at the time, and how they could be enhanced today. Let's get right into it. In the gameplay presentation, the goal was to eliminate anti-air guns. Their locations weren't specified, you had to figure out where they were, and when you did find them, you had the option of choosing how you will approach accomplishing it. So, that means decently large open levels, you have your task, you can move around freely, and you don't have your hand held exactly how to do it and which way to go. Just that, in single-player action-focused games, is fairly uncommon. What you usually have is a linear experience, where you may have some wiggle room, maybe some base clearing and some degree of choice, but not really an open experience at the core. The game that comes to mind that really does this concept is 6 Days in Fallujah. As you guys know, I happen to be a big fan of it, and that is one of the reasons. Back to Brothers in Arms, if it was to be made now, I think something the size of a village with its surroundings, maybe a small town where you can go anywhere, enter any building and fight it out with the AI, is very much doable. The Normandy setting of the series is perfect for it. On the interval buildings part, I want to highlight that they would be used by the enemies too. You could engage one group and suddenly begin taking fire from a building that, as it turns out, isn't empty. Or an enemy squad could hear the firefight, sneak up and, when they are in good position, open fire. When you have a truly open area that isn't blocked off and you have a decent AI, that opens up the options for massively cool engagements. Now as for stealth, we are talking about an action game. You aren't playing as commando forces, so this feature could be used primarily for two functions. As in the gameplay preview, getting into a good position before engaging the enemy, and the other instance could be your squad getting overwhelmed, forcing you to flee, and after the enemies lose you, some degree of stealth mechanics could play a role. With decently large, truly open environments, you will have many options of where to flee, not just a few specific corridors. But where you flee to might not be safe. You may run into enemy squads, once again either occupying a building or quietly flanking you. I do want to mention randomization for the replay value. If the objective locations and the enemy spawns are gonna be the same every time, even with all I mentioned before, there won't be that many surprises after the first playthrough. But if you're only familiar with the layout of the maps and the buildings, while the amount of enemies, the enemy types, where they are located, their patrols, and of course the locations of the objectives, all of it being randomized, you'll never quite know what to expect. A way to support the channel is the Bila Koninka artwork store. My mom is the artist, I'm handling the fulfillment, and the featured painting in this video is of a 1961 Chevy Corvette. There are some cool models that had questionable looking generations, in our opinion, not the Corvette, and that is especially true in the case of the classic C1. We have a painting of the C4 as well, and of a C6 being a hooligan. We have more cool cars, motorcycles, and cute animals. So getting a print or a mug is a way to support the channel and get something directly from me. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Another feature that was planned but could only be accomplished to a very limited degree is destruction. Nowadays, if we're talking about a village or a small town, fully, properly destructible environments are very much possible. The approach I would advocate for is everything can be destroyed, but you won't have everything bulldozed every single time. My favorite example remains to be Silent Storm, and it did it exactly right. If a shell hits a wall, it will blow a piece away. Gunfire too with enough hits. cover will be destroyed, new pathways and lines of sight will be opened, and you and the enemies will adapt. But the game isn't spamming explosions all over the place, a single shell isn't taking down half a building, you just get the appropriate response on the surroundings for the action that's happening. So, almost everything can be destroyed, but on any given run you'll only have a fairly small part of the environment actually get wrecked. It's an approach we're really not seeing a lot of, especially in shooters, and I would absolutely love to see it in a game like this. Moving on, encountering civilians was supposed to be a factor too. In the gameplay trailer we have this, and in the pre-rendered one, a civilian gives you a heads up. Taking this idea further, some could also freak out and flee, potentially alerting nearby enemies, and you could have a random civilian be caught in the chaos of the firefight, taking a hit. That could result in him stumbling away, maybe falling and weighing in pain on the ground. You could have another civilian run up and try to help, or mourn him if the hit was fatal. Things like that are a massive missed opportunity for unscripted drama. You often have them in cutscenes, but rarely in the gameplay. And you don't have to see it only on civilians. Injured behaviors and interactions with the wounded could apply to your teammates and the enemies. I think it is a very important feature, and once again most games are very lacking in this regard, and particularly for a game of this type, in this mood, getting this kind of a feature done well would make just a massive difference. The last bit I wanna address is how do you have that gameplay design of large open levels that play out differently every time in a story-centered game like Brothers in Arms. What I think could be done is essentially two kinds of levels. One would be all I mentioned, with the focus on the replay value, and the other type would be linear and scripted, where you could have the story progression. But outside the Brothers in Arms series, I don't think that the focus on a story, or frankly even any story at all, is by any means a must. You can just have the combat experience, and this experience, for me, is an itch that doesn't get enough scratching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you liked the ideas. If you did, be sure to share it where it may be appropriate. For more discussions like this, do check out the specials playlist. I'll have it linked in the description. I'll see you on the next one.